Hello and welcome to the Great Lakes Clean Communities Network, Forging Networks, Finding Solutions, three-part webinar series. My name is Jeremiah Asher and I'll be your host for the webinar. This is the third and last of our three-part series. Today we will be looking at improving collaboration using the GLCCN. We have joining us today Laura Young and Ken Freestone with the Institute of Water Research and Great Lakes Clean Communities Network team. We also have a special guest, Rob Breen with the New York State Department and Office of Planning and Development, and he'll be sharing some of the activities that they've been involved in over there. So before I get started, just do a couple housekeeping items with this particular webinar. In the corner of your screen down at the bottom, you will see a Q&A box that you can use to type in questions throughout the presentation. We will have some time to answer those questions at the end of the presentation as we move along. So with that, I will hand it over to Ken to get started. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on. Okay, hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you all here. This has been a really interesting project for us to work on, and it is truly one of the things that I see all the time is people talking about wanting to network, talking about starting new projects, talking about their activities, and yet I find out that there's other people in the region and doing the same thing, and it's always nice if we can get them talking to each other. So this network has really been a great opportunity to bring people together who are peers within the Great Lakes Basin and working on similar projects or related projects. And one of the things you'll see on this site, and we've done a couple of webinars showing what the different features are on the site. The one we're going to probably concentrate mostly today is connecting in with groups. But when you look at this front page, you'll see that there's Connect, there's Share, there's Tools, and Eco Score. And on the sharing side, you get a chance to share a calendar of Great Lakes Clean Communities Network calendar, stories, case studies, and tools. And under tools, you'll find that you can find tools, you can share tools, you can search for tools, and you can also evaluate tools there. And then under the Eco Score, what was one of our earlier webinars, you can talk about, you can actually do an evaluation of your ecological health depending on, based on 12 indicators. And one of the things we'll find with the site is not everyone's going to use the site the same way. Some people might use all the features, and some people might just use one or two features or only one feature. So go on the site, try different things, and try all those different links and those different buttons there, and experiment a little bit with the site. Again, today we're going to concentrate on the connecting through groups, but here's a couple of basic benefits of the GLCCN collaboration in the network. It's a free membership. Now, early on, we had some discussion with our advisory groups about using the word membership. There is no fee to use this. So it's actually, we just found this was probably just people that are using it. They are members of our network, but again, it's free, so there is no requirement to pay anything. And the setup on it is very quick. You'll find it to be very simple and very similar to a lot of other sites that you sign up on, but I think we've made this pretty quick and easy. It meets the security standards for the government, and Rob will talk a little bit about how they're using it with the New York State and why this works really well for them. And of course, I had said earlier, the access to broader network of Great Lakes professionals. These are your peers, and so this makes it a great opportunity to meet with other people and also search for other people who are in your area of expertise. And unlike other networks where you might have to search across do a Google search and a lot of searching through a lot of different websites, these are people and professionals that are in your industry. And we've also been able to have make a lot of improvements on the site with ongoing feedback from users, and we hope to have that continue, that if you see something on there that isn't working or that you'd like to have on the site, let us know. We're easy to reach. We're on a network. We can all talk to each other and we can make this happen. There are also, one of the features on here is going through the network map, where you can search for other users through interactive map, and you can filter by expertise or interest area. you can do you'll see on this, you're seeing the map and you're seeing some different pin points on there showing that what groups are on there or what networks are in the network. But also below that, the member list actually displays below the map. So you see all of the members, all of the names are listed down there, and you can do some searching through that. I also wanted to just say that on almost every page, there is some kind of a search option. So you can search in this particular way by demographics. You can search by mileage around your area, and that will change the way the map looks. But also, remember, this is an online tool, so you can use some of the typical search things that you would use for an online search, like Control F if you're on a PC, or a Command plus F for a Mac product, and then you can put in the name that you want, and you can search for other information that might be lower down the page, and you can find it a little quicker that way. And you can also, one of the great things about this is that you can make this as private as you want. If you want to make it public and open to everyone, you can do that, but you have the ability to set the privacy settings. And some people only want to talk within their network. They might be working on some secure information or information that shouldn't be shared publicly just yet. Maybe if it's test results or some an ongoing white paper or something that's being written, you might not want to share that until it's complete. You can make that private. And then you can also post events and stories on here. So if you've got an event, you can put it on the GLCCN calendar. You can also add the GLCCN calendar to your own Google Calendar. So those news feeds will pop up and those event feeds will pop up on your calendar. You can share projects, news, success stories, new findings, and there's also a section for stories and events featured on, well, the stories and events will be featured on the home page too. And I also want to just say that we talk about the calendars, being able to share the calendar. One of the features that we haven't been able to quite make work the way we wanted to is to actually have a calendar embedded of your own for your own projects. So what I did is I use a free calendar service that's out there. It's called brownbearsw.com is the website. And it's a free calendar. I can use that in my group, and I ended up putting a link in one of the forums sections so that people can just click on it. It's one click, goes to my calendar, and we can show the events that are going on for our group or meeting dates or events that are coming up. So that's just one. You can also do that with Google Calendars. You can just put your link right in there, and you can click on it and get to a calendar. So there is a little workaround there for having your own calendar. In the activity page, you can quickly access groups and working documents and more. When you pull up your profile, you'll see on there what groups there's a button there for groups. You can click on that and it'll show all of your groups. You can click on working documents. It will show all the documents you're working on, etc. So you can, again, find and access a lot of information on there. And you can also friend people and message other users on the site. And then the sharing ideas, files, and resources. This is one of the best features, and this is really the most valuable part of the site, is being able to share things with each other. And you can share. Laura will talk about some of the file formats that you can use, and you can use a wide variety of formats and embed those or upload those there. And you can also have a working document, so you can put a collaborative document up on the site, and you'll see it looks a lot like a Word document or a regular word processing type document, and you can work on that together. Laura will talk about a couple little features of that you'll need to be aware of. And then the groups are dedicated, there's groups dedicated for, you can have an organization, you can have a working group that might be working on a particular project, or if you have a topic or a special interest area, you can form your groups around that. I've had some groups that are formed that are not necessarily directly related to water, to the work of the Great Lakes Basin, but they have some environmental connection, and so the people have said this is a great place to still network on there. And I think, Laura, you're going to take over from here?
Yes. So I think everyone can hear me, and I'll go ahead and get my video started as well. All right, so thanks for that introduction, Ken, on general networking features of the network and a brief intro into GLCCN groups. So for the next 10-15 minutes or so, I'm going to walk through some of the more detailed functions of GLCCN groups, And we're going to start with the main page of a group, sort of what I refer to as a group feed. And so what you see here in this screenshot is an example for this composting, rain barrels, and rain gardens group. And for any given group on the network, this is where folks are going to go, post their content, reply to one another's posts, and just have a discussion with each other. And what's cool about the main group feed is it's sort of just a living history of what's been discussed within a given group. And it also will capture other activity within a group. And I'm going to talk about these other features in just a moment, but if someone creates a new working doc or edits that document, uploads a new file to the group, those activities will be captured in this main group feed. And it will also capture when new users join a particular group. And Ken just alluded to the fact that early on he kind of said the network can be used for different purposes by different groups. And there's sort of a wide variety right now in the network of different groups that are set up. So in this example, this is sort of a group for anyone who's interested in rain barrels, rain gardens, and composting. These folks just go on there and sort of share whatever they wish related to that particular topic. And I'll show a few examples later on in which the groups are really more tailored to a specific project, a working group kind of effort. And that's just to say that there is a lot of variety in how different groups and organizations have used this particular networking feature. Let me get it go there. All right. So right now I'm going to walk through a couple different features that a group administrator can enable for their particular group. And when I say group administrator, I'm referring to an individual who actually creates a group on the network, and they sort of have full administrative privileges for that particular group. So they can adjust all the different settings, modify those at any point in time. They can disable any of these features that I'm going to share with you, but there is sort of a hierarchy of how different group members can interact, and administrator is sort of the highest level for that. But anyhow, if you enable a forum for your group, I think what's really key about this is it helps you organize discussions in a particular group. So for the rain barrels, rain gardens, composting group that I just shared with you, it doesn't, I don't think it has a forum enabled for that group. And so users are only posting all of their content in that one main page of the group. But some folks might just be really interested in rain barrels, other folks might just be interested in rain gardens, and maybe there are a handful of folks that really just want to get into the nitty-gritty details of composting. And so what forums would enable that group to do is actually separate those discussions out into different subtopics. So that way, if you're really only interested in composting, you can click on the composting subtopic and just see all that discussion there. So I think it's really, really useful for helping organize these discussions amongst various people. What's also cool about forums is that it allows you to enable certain topics as sticky. And what this means is that that particular topic will be always displayed first in the list of forum topics. So in the screenshot on the top here, the announcement subtopic is sticky. So if we added in 10 more different forum topics, announcement would always be listed first in that list of subtopics. Another cool thing about forums is for a user who's actually posted content, it has a pretty nice formatting bar. So if you're putting in a post and let's say you need to insert a few hyperlinks or you have some images you'd like to share and embed within your actual group, it has a really quick and nice format for making it easy for folks to post those particular images, videos, and that kind of thing. Another kind of feature that you can enable for your group is working docs. Ken kind of briefly described this, and it is essentially an online word processor. It's sort of similar to Google Docs, but there are a few key differences. And the first is that if you're familiar with Google Docs, anyone can go on a particular document and edit that document simultaneously. So that doesn't necessarily work like this in the GLCCN. So let's say Ken and I, who's in the room with me here, are collaborating on the GLCCN, and we're posting a document about tips for social media use for environmental nonprofit groups. In this instance, let's say I'm making some edits to the document. Ken also wants to put in some edits in there. I have to save my edits before he'll be able to access those. So it's not quite live like it is in Google Docs, but one benefit, as Ken had pointed out earlier, is that particularly for when you're collaborating with governmental organizations, you'll be able to work with those individuals using the GLCCN, since there appear to be no security restrictions for using the GLCCN. I know in our experience, we've worked with some state agency officials in Michigan who often tell us, well, we can't use Google products or we can't use this other one, but they are able to get on and work with the GLCCN. One other thing I'd just mention here is that you can actually attach additional files to the document. So that could be a PDF, an image, a PowerPoint, or Word doc if needed. And as Ken had mentioned earlier, there are lots of different permission settings for viewing and editing content in various parts of the group. So if you're using Working Docs, you create a document, you can specify who has access to view it and who has access to edit it. And that could be only group administrators. You could restrict access so only they're allowed to edit the document. You could also set it up even where even folks outside your group could view and edit the document and make it fully public if you decided to do that. And the screenshot that's listed here is just to say that you can organize these different documents within the GLCCN, put them in different folders, just to help keep things all in place and organized as you use these different collaborative tools. All right, so the next piece here is file sharing on the network. And this is just a feature that if you need to upload different files to the network, you are able to do so. There are pretty much the standard types of files that you're going to be sharing are allowed and accepted to be posted on the GLCCN, whether it's Microsoft Office files, PDFs, images, compressed zip files. All those are okay to upload to a particular group. And the example that we have here is from the crowd hydrology group on the network. And this is an effort that Dr. Chris Lowry out of SUNY Buffalo had started to help crowdsource stream stage data, particularly in the Great Lakes, but there are also some sites outside of the Great Lakes. And we found that there were some additional permitting requirements for folks in Michigan, and the GLCCN enabled us to easily share those permit materials with different stakeholders who are interested in this particular effort. So that's just what this is showing right here, having some of those different permitting materials posted. And similar to Working Docs, you can specify who is allowed to upload documents to your group. You can restrict it just to group administrators or even moderators, or allow any group member to post files. And you can also help organize those different documents by specifying keywords and tags to associate with them. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and talk about if you're interested in building a group, sort of what process you're going to go through and what sorts of information are required to get started. So when you first create your group, you're going to be asked for a couple different pieces of information that are listed here. So you're going to need a group title, a group description. You're going to need an invite list, obviously, of who you'd like to join your group. And it's also going to ask you whether or not you'd like to enable some of those features that I just discussed, like Working Docs, the forum, file sharing. And this is optional, but we sort of highly encourage folks to also upload a group image or profile image and cover photo, but it's not required to get started. And you might be wondering about different privacy settings for these groups. So there are 3 different settings, and we're going to start with public here, and public is what it means, it's public. So any GLCCN user who's registered on the site is able to join a public group. And not only that, but for any site visitor, whether or not they're actually registered on the GLCCN, can go in and view that group content. So for that Rain Barrels, Rain Gardens composting group that I had shared earlier, that is a public group. You don't have to be logged in to view any of that content that's posted within that particular group. The difference here is that only group members can actually post content to a public group. So you do have to be logged in and a member to add content to a group. And it is listed on the groups directory page within the GLCCN. So for that first slide that Ken had shared with us as we introduced groups, it had a listing of the 20, maybe even 30 plus groups on the network right now. Public groups are within that directory. Second, there are private groups, and this will still be listed in the groups directory, but users actually have to request permission to join or be invited by a group administrator to get access to the group. And an administrator actually has to go in and approve requests for group membership as well. The group that Rob is going to share with us in a moment is a private group, and I'm sure he'll kind of touch on the privacy settings and why they set it up that way. So for private groups, only group members can see content, only group members can post content. And finally, there are hidden groups as well on the network. And this is the most restricted privacy setting for groups on the GLCCN. And you have to be invited to join a hidden group, and only group members will be able to see and post content. And a hidden group will not be listed on the directory of groups on the GLCCN. So personally, as we've set up the GLCCN network, we've used hidden groups just to test out different features. Or if we add in something new, we'll create a hidden group and just do that testing and not have it be displayed for the world to see. So an example of at least the difference between a public group and a private group is shown here. So the one on the left is public. It's that Rain Barrels, Rain Gardens group. And as I mentioned, anyone can go to that particular page, whether or not they're a GLCCN member, and view that content. And on the right is one of the groups that Rob has created, and it's private. So if you're not a member of the group and you're not logged in, you're going to get a little message indicating that this is a private group and you need to request permission to join before you're able to access any of that information. And while we're here, I just want to point out the benefit of including a profile image or cover photo for your group. So right here, you're going to get a gray blob or a gray, oops, looks like I went way too far. You're going to get a gray default block if you don't end up uploading your own image. And it just kind of looks better if you do. So. All right, so moving on, to help engage different users within your group, there's some automatic email notifications setting within the GLCCN. And so this is a good way, we don't really anticipate most folks going on this network every single day, checking activity and what's going on. So these email notifications are really useful to help keep folks engaged. And what's cool is that you can actually set particular defaults for your group about how often you want to send out notices of activity within your group. We usually recommend the weekly digest setting. So this will summarize all group activity for a week and send out an email once a week with all the activity that's been going on. This is a good way to keep folks engaged without necessarily feeling like you're spamming them and overloading their inbox. You can also select a daily digest, which would do the same thing for any activity that's been posted in a given day. You can choose to have no emails at all, or select every and all email of activity that gets posted to the group. As I said, an admin can actually go in and select a particular default, and you'll be asked to do this if you end up creating a group. But users can go in and override whatever the default is for a group. So if you're an individual and you feel like you're getting too many emails, you can adjust that setting, or if you want to get more notices about activity, you can go ahead and set that preference. And the one thing I'll mention too is that if there is no activity within the group for a day or a week, it's not going to send out an email notification for that particular period. Another thing I want to point out with email notifications, and these settings are just for group administrators, you can set up a welcome email to welcome new group members as they join, and you can also send out sort of one-time email notices. This isn't going to get posted in sort of the group activity page, but if you find there's sort of been a stall in engagement in the group, or you want to bring attention to a really important topic, you can use this email notice feature to help connect with folks offline off the GLCCN. So kind of one of the last pieces for building your own group is inviting members. So there are about 300 or so folks on the network right now from all over the Great Lakes Basin. And you can search for those members right now in the GLCCN to add to your particular group. And you just check the box next to their name. And in that sort of white space, if I can find it here, right here, their names would pop up for you to send invites to. And then you just hit the send invites button and they'll get an email notification indicating that you'd like to invite them to join your GLCCN group. Alternatively, and perhaps for many of you, you might know a lot of folks that are not currently registered on the GLCCN, and you'll be able to use a built-in form to help get them signed up on the network and in the particular group you'd like to invite them to. So in this instance, this first box right here, get my mouse, you can copy and paste up to 50 emails at one time to invite users to a particular group, and then you can customize, I can get my cursor back, under number 3 there, you can customize a message to those individuals you'd like to invite to join the GLCCN. And then you can actually select for any group that you are a member of, you can invite them to join that particular group. And so if they accept your invitation to register on the GLCCN, they'll get a notification to sign up for your group. And that's a good way to kind of get folks offline into your GLCCN group. And what I really like about inviting folks actually through the GLCCN, as opposed to just putting in a link in an email, is that it allows you to track who's actually accepted your invitations. So I blurred out a whole bunch of names here, but for all of the text that's in green, for those individuals, they accepted my invitation to join the GLCCN. And in that second column there, also accepted whichever group I had invited them to originally. So this is a good way, you know, if you're still waiting on a few folks to join, to quickly reference who hasn't signed up for your GLCCN group and contact those individuals again and remind them about their group invitation. So I'm going to wrap up my piece here. We'll pass it off to Rob in just a moment. But the last thing I want to talk about is different roles in the group for users. So I had sort of briefly touched on group administrators, and like I said, they sort of have full access to managing a group. And in that purple bar here, this is the management bar, and only group administrators are going to be able to view that particular section and make any changes or modifications to group settings. There is also a role for group moderators, so you can promote different individuals in the group to that setting, and moderators essentially just moderate content that's posted within the group. So we don't typically get spam or inappropriate behavior occurring on the GLCCN, but if for some reason that happened, a moderator would be able to go in and delete a particular post or something like that. Group administrator can do that also. So just again, to recap, for group administrators, they can promote or demote members, they can remove them from their group, or even kick and ban them from the GLCCN. Though, as I said, we don't really anticipate anyone needing to do that. So that sort of wraps up my sort of quick and high-level overview of lots of the different features within GLCCN groups. And now we're going to pass it off to Rob to talk about his experiences. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so Rob can get on the network and keep this presentation moving.
Hello, do I assume that you can hear me now?
Yes. Well.
All right, so welcome, good afternoon. My name is Rob Breen, and I'm with the New York State Department of State in Albany, New York. And I serve for the Great Lakes Action Agenda, I serve as a facilitator, convener, coordinator position for a somewhat unique initiative that we have going on in the Great Lakes. We have a partnership between the Department of State, which is the coastal management agency for the state of New York, and then also we partner with the Department of Environmental Conservation, and For the Great Lakes Action Agenda, we have set up 4 sub-basins to carry out an ecosystem-based management initiative. And it's along so for New York State's boundaries, it's for Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. And we focus on natural resources, water quality, and resilient communities and sustainable development as part of our ecosystem-based management initiative. We were looking for an online tool that would help us to kind of carry this out and to engage the community and stakeholders. So we were looking for a tool that could provide for communication and collaboration, a community practice ultimately. And we were looking for a variety of different features. So we wanted a 3-way communication, and that's kind of top down with agency, state and federal and local government agencies working with stakeholders, citizens, nonprofit groups. We wanted to be able to do some bottom up so they could initiate conversation. And then also, once facilitators step out of the way, groups could talk amongst themselves, and individuals and stakeholders could carry on those conversations. We wanted to be able to set up subgroups, so if we created committees or other ad hoc teams, we could set those groups up. We need to be able to set up member profiles so that as people join this, as stakeholders join this, they could share some things about them, about themselves, particularly their expertise. And that also ties into that 3-way communication. If a community is looking for certain individuals with expertise, they could use the GLCCN to look up a member profile and do that. We wanted to be able to actually develop collaborative documents. So not only just sharing documents, but actually working online. We work with urban and rural communities, and we work all over the state. And so to be able to, and then we host these meetings, face-to-face meetings, but not everybody is able to participate in those. So as we put documents up and we're developing documents, we would need to actually collaborate on authoring those documents. We need a place for file storage and archive, particularly for agendas and minutes. These are public meetings. And then also for best practices for ecosystem-based management, resilience, and sustainability, and then resources too. And now the GLCCN allows sharing of those best practices and tools throughout, but there's some very key tools that are for New York State. We also wanted to do a calendar, mapping, and a monitoring dashboard, which would facilitate this. So as we went out looking, we also set up some criterion for identifying a tool that we could use. We want it to be open source and allows us to work with government and public entities and citizens. We want it to be low cost and free because we have just complete public access, so really citizens or any stakeholder can get on, and we wouldn't want to have to slap on a $20 fee for membership, which would not necessarily be affordable for entire groups. We want it to be accessible to a variety of different stakeholders. There are government staff that we've worked with, they said just because of their restrictions, they're not able to get on a variety of different tools. And then also because we have a lot of rural citizens who have limited broadband, it needed to be a type of tool that wasn't so overwhelming with bells and whistles that it just shut down constantly. And that's been an issue for a lot of our rural citizens and stakeholders. We wanted to consider responsive hosting, support and maintenance needs in that it couldn't just be a tool that was set up and catch as catch can. If you use it and if it falls apart or you have some issues with it, nobody's going to get back to you once they've sold membership on it. And then we also wanted to consider future funding and staffing and support beyond a year. So if we found a tool that was up and available for a year, but because of funding was going to be cut and it would go away, we need to have a tool that's going to be there perpetually, however long perpetual winds up being. Now we did go on and we explored a variety of different options. All the tools that we looked at beyond this were proprietary tools. So they turned out to be costly. Oftentimes they would do a bait and switch. You can join for free, 1 member, or maybe the first 10 members. And then beyond that, start shelling out thousands of dollars to support this every year. A lot of them were not secure, or we couldn't have government entities involved in them. They couldn't use them because of their security restrictions. And then some of them were just so complex. They had really high bandwidth. I was trying them out from our state agency office, and I couldn't even get them to work. So those are some of the options that we were looking for. And we did, in January of last year, we found the Great Lakes Clean Communities, and it was, people were already beginning to talk about it and share it. So I'd heard the name come up, and then I think that it was linked in email. So I went to check it out, and I was very surprised because it seemed to meet a lot of our criteria. So I did what I did with the other sites. I went ahead and started a member profile. I set up a group site to explore it. I looked at all the features. I uploaded some sample documents, and I submitted an online comment. And my comment was really, tell me more about this. Here's some things that were kind of clunky on this. Here's some suggestions and so forth. I wanted to see how they were going to respond. And by the way, I'll talk about that later, but they're very responsive. And so let me share a little bit with you. Once we got on, these are some of the experiences that I had with using this. One is simple to use. It was the basic tools that we needed, and there were lots of bells and whistles that we just never would use and never needed. Great sales pitches, but they were just irrelevant for us, and made this relatively simple to use both for me and for other people who maybe weren't as literate with electronic tools. It was going to be available for the long term. It was funded, it had staff, it had some stability. We found that it is accessible by citizens, nonprofit groups, local governments, state governments. We have federal partners, and we have not pulled any federal partners on at this point. We just got some new partners, so we'll eventually get them on, but it looks so far like there's not going to be any restrictions. They're at least able to view it. They just hadn't set up any memberships for them or profiles for them yet. We were able to create subgroups, so we have one subgroup that exists right now, but there's we're going to be setting up a few more over the next couple of months. Other staff, I got on, and we created a couple of co-facilitators, and those other staff members have been able to fully use this. So in essence, we're sharing leadership on this, and that's been great. There's a fantastic online feedback mechanism, and so the GLCCN staff have been able to respond very effectively and quickly on this. And then we also noticed that members, once they join for our purposes, we noticed they started connecting with everybody else in the network, and they're going to and joining different groups, and they're part of both our network and our groups, but they're also part of the greater Great Lakes community and are beginning to share. So that was something we hadn't planned on, but we're great to really pleased to see that people were doing that. And I just want to share with you a couple of screenshots for you. As Laura had mentioned, the nice thing too that we found is it's customizable, so we could put logos and pictures and things like that on there, and it's pretty versatile. This was the screenshot of our sub-basins group. We set up a primary group, and then we were more active in our subgroup. So it's called our ad hoc team. This is actually the main page for our main group. And we have a description here. As we said, it's a private group. So if somebody sees it, which we want them to know about this, to get in, they would actually have to email us, and then I would let them in. A second thing that the screenshot that we have is actually of the profile. And we began with this. I was concerned because it was fairly limited when I joined last year, and I offered some suggestions for the types of things we would need for sharing expertise. And very quickly, new features were added, and it was very quick, and we were able to, before everybody else got on, and then we would have to revise it and get them to go back in and redo it. The team got it up and got these new areas entered in, and so as people were joining, they were able to take advantage of the full profile, which we found very effective for people being able to share. Sometimes we get a request within the group. Somebody wants to connect with another member. You can jump and look at what their expertise is, what they're connected, and so forth, to find out about them. The next thing that we've used actually is the working docs, and the working docs is the main area that we use besides probably the profile and messaging. And this was for us to be able to upload the documents that we're using. Particularly, we had uploaded minutes of the meetings and meeting agendas, and then a variety of different tools that we were using. So you can see there's a watershed plan, work plans, and so forth. And because it allows the filing system, allows us to very easily find those. In this particular screen, you'll see that we have a Northeast Lake Ontario sub-basin group, and then we have a Lake Erie sub-basin group. So all four of the groups actually have their own areas. So while we're all together on this, each member of that subgroup could go into their area and look at their very specific documents. Some documents are shared amongst the groups. But the other thing that we wanted to do is do some cross-fertilization. So one group can go to the next, or one basin member can go to another basin member and see what people are doing. We also found that we could create a working docs document, and this one is a task responsibility sheet. We could actually do kind of project management with this. So we started creating some tasks for one of our subcommittees of what we need to do and when it's due and so forth by using a spreadsheet. And then the final one screenshot that we have for you is our a draft working agenda. So this is a collaborative document we put up for one of our work teams, and it's a policy innovation ad hoc team that was it's a subcommittee in essence of our larger group. And they were able to put their ideas in here. We start off with a basic draft document, and people have been submitting comments and suggestions through the document. So it's a living, working document. And that's been a very important piece for us to be able to do this collaboration. So how does the GLCCN help us achieve the Great Lakes Action Agenda goals? Well, we are really based on some principles of collaborative governance and network governance in New York State with this initiative. So again, we said we wanted a three-way communication, and this actually fosters it. We wanted open access to stakeholders. This is government and public involvement, so we want to make sure that they're able to access this. Anybody can be promoted to facilitate. So over time, we are seeing that maybe the staff from the state agencies would change their roles, and we might have a citizen just rise up and facilitate conversations in here, but we can promote different people to do that. Anyone can start a conversation through a forum or upload comments or ideas or suggestions or innovations. So we're going to foster that, top-down, bottom-up kind of conversations. And then emergent groups, as there's a need. It might not even be something that we conceive of initially, but another group might have 3 nonprofits in a hospital decide that they need to work on environmental health issues. So they actually can create their own group, and it's comes out of this, but they can form their own group and move with some new innovations and ideas. And we don't necessarily need to control that. And that facilitates this through the GLCCN. Also, the principles of adaptive management, we want to be able to do some initiatives and then set up some goals and track them, which you saw an example of us setting some tasks on that. And then also we want to be able to do some monitoring and create some feedback loops so we can do to manage and change our strategies and our goals and our tasks and our approaches as we go, not just wait to the end of this process. Now that brings us up to the ECO score, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I saw that and knew that at least we had the capability within the GLCCN to do that type of dashboard approach to doing monitoring. Another real key thing for us was actually the support and feedback. So the staff of GLCCN support, encourage the online activity. When I got on, almost immediately, Laura was there sending me messages saying, "Hey, that's great. I saw you started a new group. Anything you need? Have you figured everything out?" So tremendous encouragement and support for people just getting on. They're very responsive to that online feedback mechanism. And as I said earlier, I saw that they had a contact us button. I clicked on it the very first time I was getting on and playing with it. And I just sent off an email just to see how they respond. And the next day I had a response from them. As a matter of fact, I had suggested some ideas and they called me back the next day, and Jeremiah said, let's set up a conference call. And then, very shortly we had a conference call and went over, what our project was about, where we're going, what our needs were, and began those conversations. And then within a couple of weeks, I was thinking, maybe we'd put in a work order within a year or two. We might have some elements added, but we had several elements that were added, my suggestions, within a couple of weeks, and we were able to use them right away. So just in general, there was an ongoing responsiveness and comments from Jeremiah, Laura, and Jason. Some of the challenges, and this is not challenges because it's GLCCN, but just using this, any kind of online tool in general, was that not everyone's computer savvy. So one of the great things is this is not terribly complicated. as a tool, and I've been able to walk through certain members who are not computer savvy, walk through, and they were able to get it. Getting everyone to become active and to fill out a profile. Some people put their name and that was it, so I had to get on their case. Really, it helps if you give us your picture so we can see you and tell us about yourselves, and people then responded to that. But getting them active and checking emails of posts that have gone on. We know that we need to spend more time supporting new users and getting them used to it. And then including people who can't attend meetings. We do a lot of face-to-face meetings. I should say a lot, but we do quarterly meetings, and not everybody's able to attend. Not everybody's even able to afford to travel to meetings. So being able to have this tool and getting those people who would like to get involved but just can't, or other stakeholders, groups, organizations, allows them to get onto this and still participate fully in what we're doing. But the challenge of actually including those people and even identifying them, people would like to get involved, but they just haven't been able to go. That's one of the challenges. And then we had some future ideas for this, some suggestions, and I've already talked to staff about this, so they won't be too embarrassed when I share these. But the messaging is still clunky, and we need to refine that. So and that's part of just the nature of how this was set up. And we pulled in, staff have pulled into the network a variety of different tools, and they were not designed to be fully integrated. So they're working on some of those. Everything's functional. It's just for those people who are not savvy, making it much more integrated and easier and seamless would help. The calendar actually can work, but we would like to actually customize it. We put an item up, for example, a meeting that's only relevant for people inside one of our groups or our subgroups. That allows, if we had a little checkbox, it allows us to just show it to people within. That might be a thing that would help us. Maybe integrating Google Drive. Honestly, it's already integrated in that I can just send out a message and say, hey, everybody go here, here's a link, and people can link to Google Drive, but there might be some more ways to integrate that seamlessly. We use participatory GIS mapping. And again, the tools are already out there. We can just provide a link and go to that, and that may suffice. But we would certainly use the GLCCN at least to get there, carry on the conversations and collaborative documents, and then pull in those maps as PDFs once we're finished with those. The customizable eco score is probably going to be our higher priority because we're doing ecosystem-based management approach. So that eco score, if we can customize that and use our own criterion for sustainability, for resilience, for ecosystem-based management, and every community gets an opportunity to do that, that is going to be very, very key for us. So again, I've already talked with GLCCN staff, and we are having conversations about where we need to go with that. It is a brilliant tool. It is fantastic. It's visual. It's extremely helpful. Research has shown that using that kind of a tool is very helpful for people. So we absolutely want to take advantage of that. And then also, whatever way we can help to support the network for securing ongoing funding, we want to do that and partner with that. So that's what I have for you today. And if there are more questions, my email's down at the bottom, and then certainly you can contact us through the Q&A that we will now go into, I suppose.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just temporarily here. Let's see, this one up. And thank you so much, Rob, for sharing your experience with the network. I think that really helps put it into a more user perspective, and we've really, really appreciated working with you to help get your group up and going. Oop, why is this not? All right, so just to wrap up briefly, I think we might have mentioned this earlier, but staff at the GLCCN is available anytime to help you get group set up, answer any questions. As Rob pointed out, he has lots of suggestions to help make the network a better network. And we really want to support every user on the GLCCN in that effort. So please do not hesitate to email us, contact us through the GLCCN, give us a call, so we can help make this a great network for everyone that's interested in using it. The other thing I want to mention, and I think this will be on the next slide, and Jeremiah might touch on it. Rob had mentioned a little bit about the eco score, and I think Ken had too. We had done a previous webinar on that, so if this is something new to you, we'll have some links in the next slide of how you can access that previous webinar to really learn more about that particular tool. And in general, we're really excited about this project, about this network, and as I mentioned, we just want to help everybody make this an enjoyable experience. And Ken, I don't know if you have any last comments, but
yeah, just the last couple of comments. There are several places on the network on our site where you can see some videos about what the network is all about, but also the social media series that we did. You will find that the videos are not up there right now. We just noticed there was a break in the link, and so those are being reloaded from our YouTube channel. So they should be back up there just within the next couple of days. So apologize for those videos not being up there. So if you're going to exploring and you can't find it, it should be there very, very shortly. So I think that's it. And you want to go over some questions?
Yeah, I will ask the questions. Hi, this is Lois Wilson. We have a question. For anyone, have you enabled Canadian participation?
yes, and this is actually something that was brought to our attention quite recently, that when you actually go to register on the GLCCN and you're asked to put in your address, which you don't have to do, but that will allow you to pop up on the map of the GLCCN that Ken had shown. It only lists states within the US and does not include Canadian provinces. That was not intentional, and we're aware of it, and we hope by the end of this week to have that cleaned up. But this network is available to folks in the US and in Canada. I think there may even be a few folks that are even outside of the entire Great Lakes Basin that have joined. So it's not meant to exclude anybody based on, you know, their geographic, where they're located.
Can a group name be put in the email to line and have all members of the group be sent that email?
So if this is in reference to email notifications through the GLCCN, those emails should come through that directly references the group title. But certainly, whether you're messaging a user directly through the GLCCN or writing an email, you can add the group title if you wish. And if that did not address your question, please let Lois know, and we'll try to elaborate further.
If there are any questions, please type them in. There's a Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, and we'll wait for a few more questions to be put in. While we're waiting, Jeremiah, or Ken or Laura or Rob, did you have any other comments you'd like to make?
I think we'll go ahead and switch over to this next slide, and if folks have questions, type them in now. And Jeremiah, do you just kind of want to summarize a few things?
Yeah, yeah, I'll join in. So I just wanted to thank the speakers today and thank the attendees for joining us. This is kind of getting at the heart of what we're really wanting the Great Lakes Clean Communities Network to do, is to be able to improve connecting with one another, being able to make greater impacts because of those connections, finding new people to do work with, and broadening the networks across the Great Lakes Basin. So we're really excited about where this is going. We're very pleased to have connected with Rob in New York. That the group over there has really, in our eyes, been able to take advantage of the GLCCN in the ways that we were hoping it could. So we were thankful that Rob was able to join us on the presentation today and be able to share how that group over there has been doing that, and hopefully that can be a model for other communities and groups and departments to be able to use the GLCCN. As he mentioned, we're continuing to evolve and grow the network, and are happy to get suggestions on how we can improve that to help make the GLCCN a better tool that can help you accomplish the things you're trying to do. So with that, I'll just say that we will be sending out an email after the presentation today that will have some links on it links with access to the previously recorded videos, and also a short survey that that we'd like to have you fill out if you can provide us some feedback on the presentation today. So with that, I think we're good, and we can wrap it up. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you all in the future. If you have not set up a membership on the network, please feel free to hop on and explore around on the GLCCN and see if it's something that will work for your needs. Thanks.